I want to talk about religion in the 21st century, but I would like to start with a few definitions of what I'm talking about. First of all, very easy, what is religion? So the way it is that I'm going to speak about religion in the next 20 minutes takes religion to be a set of human norms and values which are based on a belief in a superhuman order, in superhuman laws. Anything that complies with this definition, at least for me, is a religion. Islam is a religion, Buddhism is a religion, also communism and Nazism and liberalism are religions. Some people don't like this way of presenting things. They say that religions must have gods, and for this reason communism and liberalism and perhaps even Buddhism are not really religions. It's okay, it's just a matter of semantics. You can divide religions into religions with gods, which we call them religions, and the same thing, but which uses natural laws instead of divine laws, and then you call it ideology. But the important thing is to realize that from a historical perspective, and I'm an historian, I'm interested not in spiritualism for its own sake, but in the role of religion in history. As far as the function of religion is concerned, communism and Islam fulfill the same function. They give legitimacy, they give stability to the human order. They explain to people why they have to behave the way that they behave, because there is a superhuman order which compels us, or which obliges us to behave in that way. It can be the laws of some divine being, and it can be the laws of nature, in the case of communism or Buddhism or Nazism. So this is the way that I'm going to use the word religion. And this is important because I would like to argue, and again I'm continuing Thomas' view on this, that humanism is in fact a religion, maybe a secular religion, but maybe there is no God in it, but it is a religion. What is humanism? Humanism is the idea that humanity is sacred and that humanity is the source of all meaning and authority in the universe. What is good and what is bad, humanity decides it. Good and bad are what's good and bad for humanity. This is the basic definition of what humanism is. It's the belief in humanity. Now, over the last 300 or 400 years, there have been various strands or various sects of humanism, just as theist religions all believe in theos, all believe in God, but they argue who is God, what is God, and different theist religions have different definitions of God, and this is how we get Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and so forth. So also with humanism, all humanists agree that humanity is sacred and is the source of all meaning and authority. But what is humanity? Here there is disagreement. Liberal humanists, which I will speak about at length in this lecture, they think humanity is individual. Socialist humanists, they think that humanity is the collective of people. And evolutionary humanists, like the Nazis, they believe that humanity is a biological species which might evolve into superhumans or which might degenerate into subhumans or even become extinct completely. The 20th century can be described as the age of the great religious war of humanism. Between these three strands of humanism, the victor in the end, at least for now, at least since 1989, was liberal humanism. This is the dominant religion of the planet today. So what does liberal humanism, or for short, liberalism, what does it say? Liberalism worships humanity and defines humanity as individual. Humanity is each individual Homo sapiens has within him this sacred thing called humanity. Liberalism has three main beliefs, three main principles. First of all, it believes in the inner unity of the individual. This is why it is called individual. The literal meaning of individuals means you can't divide it. It's individual. And the idea is that each of us, and this is a direct inheritance from Christianity and from Judaism, each of us has within us this grain, this seed of light within us. And this seed of light, which is within every individual, is the source of meaning, of authority, of morality in the world. When we don't know what to do, when we have a dilemma in personal lives, in politics, what to study, whom to marry, whom to vote for, and so forth, liberalism tells us, listen to yourself. Go within yourself, try not to hear all the noise around, what's on TV, and what the neighbors are saying, and what your mother is saying. Ignore all that. Try to go deep, deep inside, connect to this source, and you will hear a single voice, the voice of the authentic individual, which will tell you what to do. So this is the first principle, individuality. The second principle is autonomy. The individual is autonomous, the individual is free. There are influences from the outside world, from teachers, from television, from parents, from friends. There are influences, but again, the big project is to try to clear away all these layers and go deep inside. And within ourselves, tells us liberalism, there is a zone of complete freedom, complete choice, complete autonomy. And from this place, we need to take the big and small practical decisions of life and of politics and economics and so forth. So this is the second principle. And the third principle of liberalism is it depends on the first two. If this is true, that I have within myself this sacred zone of complete freedom, where I can find my authentic self free of all outside influences, it means that at least in theory, I can know myself better than any outside system or any outside agent can know me. The KGB or the Stasi or the Gestapo or whatever can collect as much information as they want on me. They can have surveillance for 24 hours, still, they wouldn't really know who I am. And when a small child comes crying from kindergarten to his parents and says, the kids in the kindergarten, they make fun of me, they're laughing at me. So the parents, if they're liberals, they will tell him or her, don't worry, don't pay attention to what the other kids are saying, they don't know who you really are. Only you know your true value. So don't listen to the other kids. Look within yourself. All the answers, your true worth comes from within. And this is why the main value of liberalism is liberty. And why it is called liberalism, from liberty, the same root. The main commandments of liberalism is to protect this inner, sacred, autonomous, authentic zone within ourselves. This is what human rights are meant to do. They protect this inner zone. Now, a brief survey of how this works out in practice, in real life. So take politics. When we have a difficult decision in the field of politics, what to do with the Arab-Israeli conflict. Who should be prime minister? So what do liberals tell us? They tell us the voter knows best. At least in liberal mythology, every 4 years or every 3 years in Israel, you go and you have a vote, and each person goes alone behind the curtain, where he is alone or she is alone only with myself, and I look within myself and I try to listen to my authentic voice, and my authentic voice will tell me, vote Bibi. And then I vote. Or vote something else, and then I vote. For most Israelis, it tells them to vote Bibi. So this is liberal politics. And what is liberal economics? The same thing in the field of economics. The big slogan of liberal economics is not the voter knows, the customer knows best. The customer is always right. There is no authority higher than the customer in liberal economics. You can have all the professors in the world design the perfect car, and the buyers, the customers don't buy it, it's not a good car. The customer always knows better than all the professors in the university. And then you have liberal aesthetics. What is beauty? What is art? Throughout history, there are many objective definitions of what is beautiful. Liberalism came along and said, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. What you think is beautiful, this is beauty. And what you think is art, this is art. And when Marcel Duchamp, as everybody goes to a basic course in art history, in 1917 puts a toilet in the museum and called this is art, this is fountain, my latest sculpture. And everybody argues, is it art, is it not art? The conclusion of all these arguments is always the same, at least if you go to a liberal art school, that art is whatever people think that art is. And beauty is whatever people think is beautiful. And the same in ethics. If you did something terrible in the Middle Ages, like have an affair with your next door neighbor, then you go to the priest, and the priest tells you, this is bad. How do I know if it is bad? Because God said so, because the scriptures say so. Now, in the modern equivalent is when somebody goes to the psychologist, say Tony Soprano goes to visit Dr. Melfi. Dr. Melfi knows, for whoever saw the Sopranos, that Tony Soprano kills and blackmails and do terrible things, but she can never say to him, you're an evil person, stop doing that. She can't do it. Because psychology does not have the authority to do it. When you go to a psychologist and tell, I did this, I did that, the psychologist the therapist will return the question to you and will say, oh, well, what do you feel about what you did? What do you think now when you tell me about what you did? And even if she or he thinks that it is bad, they have to cause me to reach this conclusion by myself. My inner voice has to say that this is bad. Good is whatever I feel to be good, bad is whatever I feel to be bad. And lastly, we're in university, so a few words about liberal education. The big slogan of liberal education is think for yourself. Whereas again, in the Middle Ages, the main method of teaching was somebody would sit with a book in front of you, would read the book with all the answers, and you have to memorize the book, or you have to memorize the answers. The answers are in the book or with the teacher. Liberal education says, no, the answers are all with you. We are here simply to teach you to think for yourself. And everybody, from the teacher in the first grade to the professor in the university, when you ask them, what are you trying to teach the students or the pupils, they will say, I try to teach them to think for themselves. This is, yes, I'm teaching also all kinds of data, but basically I'm trying to teach them to think for themselves. Now, this kind of approach is today the dominant religion on earth. It has no real alternative. It has a package of human rights and individualism and democracy and free market capitalism and all that. There is no real alternative to this package. China is perhaps an economic giant, but it's an ideological dwarf. They have absolutely no idea what they believe in, except making money. Social protest, which we saw in the last few years, has absolutely no dispute with any part of this liberal package. They simply want the government to realize this package, to really give what the government promises to give. Now, what about fundamentalist religions like radical Islam? So these fundamentalist religions, some people think that they may be the wave of the future, but they have absolutely nothing innovative to say about the new challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. There is nothing in the Quran or in the Talmud about artificial intelligence, about genetic engineering, about creating eternal life here on earth. So they don't understand the questions the dangers and the opportunities. So it looks like something important, but at least in my view, and I think people will dispute it later on, this is not the wave of the future. And we can take lessons from the past on this point. In the 19th century, people say, yes, there are billions of people today still believing in God, in Christianity, in Islam. We see a wave of fundamentalism in the Middle East, in Israel, in the United States. Yes, but we saw it before, and it didn't change anything. The 19th century also had billions of people believing in the same things, and nobody remembers the 19th century as the era of fundamentalist Islam or of strict Christianity. The big movement that started in the 19th century, which we remember, is socialism, not the Mahdi and his theocratic Islamic regime in the Sudan in the late 19th century. At the beginning of the 19th century, the socialists were hardly in existence. There are a bunch of crazy people on the outskirts of society. Why did they succeed? Why did they transform the world in such a fundamental way? Because they cared about technology, because they understood technology. Marx and Engels and later Lenin, they studied how a modern factory works. They studied not some ancient scriptures, but they studied how a train, how a steam engine works. They studied electricity. When Lenin was once asked, please define for us, in short, what is communism? In a way that we can really understand, what is communism? So Lenin said, communism is power to the Soviets plus electrification of the entire country. There is no communism, there is no socialism without the Industrial Revolution, without the new technology. Socialism was the first techno-religion promising paradise here on earth with the help of technology, and it swept the world. Eventually it was defeated by liberalism, for reasons which I don't have the time to discuss here. But even though liberalism at present seems to be unchallengeable, I would like to argue that it cannot hold on for much longer because of the changes in science and in technology. Liberalism, as we said, it has three principles. They are all completely negated by present-day science and technology. Liberalism believes in an individual self within each of us. The life sciences don't believe any such thing. There is no inner unity. Man, any animal, is just a collection of different systems and algorithms. If you try to go through all the layers, peel one layer after the other, one layer after the other of this thing, like with an onion, nothing will be left in the end. There is no inner seed of light in any of us, at least not according to the life sciences. Secondly, there is no autonomy, there is no freedom of will, there is no autonomous zone. Things are happening either deterministically or accidentally. There is no freedom anywhere. And thirdly, based on these two principles, more and more disciplines and more in the sciences and more technologies reach the conclusion that yes, an outside system can know me much better than I know myself, can know my needs, can know my wishes, my desires. Google can know me much better than I know myself by reading and remembering all my emails and phone calls and searches and so forth. Connect Google, which is being done today, connect Google with the biometric systems which collect bioinformation on me, my DNA scan, the DNA scans of my mother and fathers and sisters and so forth. People are going today with all kinds of gadgets that constantly measure their pace, their blood pressure. They collect these tons of information. When you bring all this information together with a lot of computing power and statistical databases, you get systems that can know me much better than I know myself. And therefore, liberalism, I think, is doomed and is due to be replaced by some kind of techno-religions. Techno-religions which promise to fulfill the desires of people, not by you going inside yourself and discovering your authentic self, but by outsourcing the most important decisions of your life to an outside system. It has already happened with decisions about the body, about medicine, some of the most important decisions in your life, about your life or death decisions, like what kind of treatment I should take if I have cancer. I don't go to an autonomous zone within myself to listen to my inner voice to decide that. I bring all this data about myself, I go to the computer and to the doctor with their algorithms, and they decide for me. This will happen more and more with more and more fields of decisions in life. It will happen probably in politics. It will happen in our personal lives. Again, a decision like, and I will finish with this example, a decision like whom to marry or who to date. People keep making terrible mistakes. They go to date after date after date, and it all ends in failure. And they said, how come I keep making the same mistake? I'm sure that this guy will be different, but it's the same mistake. How can it be? It can be, because I don't know myself as much as I think I do. I don't remember all the previous times. Google will know me much better than I know myself. It will remember all the previous failures, all the previous complaints. Again, maybe it will know my DNA, my heartbeat. Whenever I go on a date, I'll put this thing on me, and it will record everything that happens in the body. And based on this, it could make much better choices for me than the liberal ideal of making these choices by going into the autonomous zone of freedom and listening to my inner voice. Thank you.